Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dotores Capinato, Ms. Reske, at first I have to say I'm sorry. University of Heidelberg has asked me to give you a presentation and information about the situation of the government against the organized crime in any place, maybe in Germany or in the rest of the world. I have to be honest to you, and when I'm talking about our combat or about the situation of the organized crime, there's one simple result. After 29 years or some months working as a public prosecutor in this country, and most of the time I spent engaged in cases belonging to the organized crime, the story of the organized crime is still a story of success. The combat against the organized crime is traditionally, in the present and maybe for the future, a story of tragedy. Until yet, there is no valid definition of organized crime in Germany. In its original law enforcement offices did watch the development of criminality in red light district in Hamburg and tried to generalize single crime characters by creating abstract conditions for dealing official statistics seriously. Since 1982, there has been no correction of traditional matters referring to a continuously changing business sector, as my colleague from Italy told. The focus is still on the relationship between several offenders operating as a criminal group and violating law for earning illegal profits. Traditional requirements to focus the structure of those gangs without taking notice about constant flexibility are the offenders and their constant aspiration for money. In the media, you will find a variety of reports. Mrs. Reske gave you some information about that, about the criminal gangs called Mafia, without having Italian roots or criminal contacts to Italy. Mafia has become a synonym for organized crime, what denies the historical background of those well-known Italian criminal organizations founded in the 19th century. Our code for criminal proceedings is 3 years younger than the Cosa Nostra is, created at the same time. In 2003, our Constitutional Court wanted to get detailed information about the existence and actual dimension of organized crime in Germany. But none of the experts has been able to describe its characteristics and the criteria to detect any criminal offense as part of the organized crime. This experience is disappointing because, for example, in 1990, 2 gangs of Russian organized crime, in the process of transformation in the late Soviet Union, did establish their branch stores in Hamburg and in Berlin for realizing criminal offenses in Germany. For 13 years, nobody was able to recognize what there was going on. Our official statistics are not really informative because they only do describe enforced criminal investigation proceedings. There is no real overview about the actual volume of those criminal activities, which are part of the phenomenon. As a result, we don't have serious information about organized crime in Germany. But how should we create something like a strategy when we don't know the threats and the challenges still waiting? Today, organized crime is no longer reduced to international drug trafficking, pharmaceutical counterfeiting, product piracy with all kinds of articles, and illegal arms trade are part of an economy operating parallel to our legal world of businesses, violating law across all borders, as you can see when analyzing the background of national criminal cases. When dealing with illegal products, the offenders are operating parallel to our legal economy, and very often, even more, they get in close contact. On the other hand, there is a second development where both disciplines of economy get in close contact. The sector of illegal employment has become the most important business area. Former high-ranking offenders in drug-dealing organizations are now establishing strong companies for illegal employment nationwide and are very often engaged in other European states as well. There is a huge amount of networks of subcontractors working close together for saving taxes and social welfare contributions. Hourly wages far away from standard wage makes the work cheaper. It's a new form or kind of slavery. But the income of the single employee has to be completed by payment of job center. In one case, we found more than 1,000 workers cheating social welfare system as well for being able to survive. This example shows how our labor market has changed and the consequences for our social welfare system. Industrial cleaning, security services, transport and logistics system, building sector and catering trade are occupied by former drug dealers and newcomers from Eastern European states, Turkey, or Africa. It is estimated that we lose more than 300 billion euros each year of taxes and social security contributions. Globalization of crime is an important factor which shows how organized crime has changed its structures and business areas. Illegal profits are transferred to the home states of the offenders, and the confiscation of their properties is not possible because their home states do not support German authorities if legal assistance is required. Today, organized crime is simply a mirror image of the legal economic system. One of the biggest mistakes in handling organized crime is not to realize the development of an increasing market, which is cooperating with the legal system as well. It endangers the interests of our legal economy and the interests of the customers when there are copies of so many industrial products available for less. And it endangers our system of social security when the basics of our labor market are disregarded. I'm not talking about the violation of law only. I'm talking about losing our social security. Another method to find a valid definition could be to analyze the character of offenses typical for organized crime groups. I won't say that classic PISO is just part of history, but Russian criminal organizations created modern types of blackmailing. Protection money as a modern business and new forms of obligation for distributing imported items. The structure of those organizations is similar to regular companies on the global market. There's a board competent for central decisions followed by several responsible managers as head of different sections. The number of employees in these criminal unions varies from 700 to 5,000. Each section is responsible for the realization of specific crime. Other units are competent for accounting, fixed salary payment per month for all members of the group, and naturally the reinvestment of the illegal profits. As agreed with the board, reserve funds are established in foreign countries for being able to pay the bills caused by law enforcement activities. In one case, I found $750 million just for bad times. Violating law each day is an alternative profession to legal life with a much better income without paying taxes or rates for Social Security. For giving you one example, I know one Russian mobster who has fears not to get in heaven after death. And he has a very personal reverend for his soul. He's paying $100,000 every month, only for the perfection of his religious soul. But this is only one example for the structure of criminal organizations. When investigating against members of Camorra, I didn't find a similar construction. In the background, organized crime has different structures. Agri Mafia is an actual type of modern crime, which shows how organized crime is entering legal economy. Agri Mafia is dealing with adulterated wine, sparkling wine, and champagne, selling sunflower oil as high-quality olive oil. Trucks packed with more than 20 pallets of so-called olive oil are running from Italy to Germany all over the year. Referring to a visible black market where Italian restaurants and food stores in Germany do accept low-grade oil, there is only one result. To export adulterated oil is more profitable than truck trafficking, because the costs for material and production are lower than €2 per liter, and many customers who do not know the low quality of the oil are cheated by the offenders, and there is less risk of prosecution as well. In a trial against an Italian food dealer established in Germany who belongs to Camorra, He was accused for tax fraud. Strawmen and straw companies in different European countries have been involved in his trade with Italian mineral water. Sales tax-free inter-community trade is practiced for optimizing profits without paying sales tax. His business becomes lucrative for him. According to my experiences, tax-saving methods are an essential part of commercial activities in Germany. So, for example, in Frankfurt, an Italian citizen once has been set in professional arrest for extradition to Italy after having killed 4 people in Italy using a Kalashnikov weapon. In his apartment were found thousands of fake jeans with Hilfiger logotype. In my investigation, due to the suspect of money laundering, I found serious evidence that those jeans have been delivered by 3 Italian companies located in Cosenza in Italy and were designated for several shops in the southern states of Germany. Don't contact any outlet shop for Italian clothes. It's going to be instrumented by Drangheta or anyone else, but it's not real. Most of the time, they're selling their jeans for €7.50, but this is not a real acceptable price. We have to learn that organized crime is not operating local or regional. It is part of a global market. For example, let's remember the foundation of modern Russian organized crime gangs in the process of transformation in the former Soviet Union. In the early days, they did establish branches in Hamburg and Berlin for realizing specific crimes like fraudulent acquisition of subsidies, human trafficking for the purpose of sexual exploitation, and drug commerce. In Russia, they started to infiltrate the legal economy by using brute force. Russian organized crime shows how powerful this kind of criminality may become when tolerated by national authorities. There's a real big city system in Russia where once 2 criminal groups did adopt the economic system in town. Bribery of politicians and law enforcement authorities made it possible to get the control over import businesses and to dominate every part of local economy, every part. It was not possible to get one simple container with chocolate into town without paying protection money before. One guy who tried had to stay in the hospital for 4 months as a result for not paying protection money before for simply the import of 1 container with chocolate. In 2007, both groups did consolidate as a result of common financial interests. It is easy to imagine what that means for the future of that city. I hope that you will agree to my very personal definition of organized crime now. Organized crime is always still in progress and changing its business sector whenever there is a chance for profit. Organized crime does appear in a real lot of images. Russian Mafia is organized in a modern character, operating like a legal company. Italian groups are following traditional rules, and modern communication techniques make it possible to establish criminal networks today without founding a gang or a criminal organization. One common goal, to satisfy personal financial interest, makes it possible to bundle different activities for realizing any offense. Organized crime is just part of globalization, using modern technologies for its e-trading efforts. One example is a former investigation to an offense by selling lifestyle pills. Home address was supposed in Israel. The website was hosted in Eastern European country. The relevant email account was listed in the USA, and the different companies were holding bank accounts in Canada and some places else. And the pills have been produced in China. Ordered products have never been delivered directly to the customer, but only by middlemen. This example shows a political dilemma. The identification of the offender and the solution of all crimes that he has realized in the past are only possible when getting any kind of his electronic communication under surveillance. But the reality is much different. Most of our clients know about our reduced methods of investigation. They are using messenger systems like WhatsApp or foreign providers for coordinating their crimes without any risk of prosecution. This example shows that any kind of trade without cash would not be the end of organized crime. 2, electronic payment cards are welcome, just today. Another example is Camorra, which is still printing counterfeit money. its distribution occurs in the darknet. Your order will be delivered by mail or by a courier to your home address. The actual price is €2 only for each banknote, good quality for sure. When taking notice of the discussion in the media about the development of electronic surveillance, as a method useful for most of our investigations, you can see that our society is not realizing the threat of organized crime. The so-called public opinion demands that we investigate offenses with the methods of the 19th century, but which are committed with the technology of the new millennium. Referring to the discussion about an operational Trojan and the surveillance of messenger systems, it is clear that our journalists and lawmakers are not able to realize the dimension of organized crime and the consequences for our legal economy. The protection of our society is not part of our fundamental values any longer. This is not a victory for our Constitution. This is a constant attack on our economy and our individual freedom, and ensures our fundamental birthright for living free. In the last couple of years, our legal system has changed. Until January 2008, our law of criminal procedure did focus on simply the truth. That's been the spirit of our Code for Criminal Proceedings for more than 100 years. Restricted by the court rulings of our Constitutional Court, our law has been changed and became so much different. Today, the truth is not important anymore. It became equal if somebody did realize in a crime, because it became more important that a judicial decision does describe sufficient reason for later examination in a trial. The actual situation demands a new form of legal justification for law enforcement authorities for operating undercover without any risk of prosecution. Legislation must respect constitutional position of law enforcement, and future court rulings must focus on the responsibility for the future of our society. We need constant support by our lawmakers and the media as well. I won't say that our legislation in Germany should follow the Italian law. The definition of organized crime in Italian criminal law is absolutely correct, but there is no need for transformation into German criminal law. That's my very personal opinion after a very long time working as a public prosecutor. We have to realize that so-called mafia groups are still growing and operating across all borders. The law enforcement agencies are even working local or regional. German prosecutors will never be able to prosecute an Italian citizen for only being a member of an Italian criminal organization. All the information about the relationship between gang members is available in Italy only. Referring to the history of Cosa Nostra, Camorra, and Drangheta, German jurisdiction will never be able to understand the tradition of these Italian phenomena. German jurisdiction will be continuously reduced to investigate single offenses and participating persons only. But it is true that we have to decide how our code of criminal procedure should look like in the near future. Modern articles in our code of criminal proceedings are getting unintelligible. We have to realize that our lawmakers are taking much care about the offenders, but not about the consequences for our society. Any legislation is only one tool, but it will never be the solution. And criminal prosecution only may not guarantee domestic safety. To protect legal economy demands political efforts as well. Product piracy has become an important crime because Chinese companies deliver every industrial product that you need without respecting any trademark. In an actual case, we found a lot of containers filled with material for selling toner cartridges. Maybe if you're in the press. All components have been produced in China. The quality of those articles makes it impossible for the customer to detect the product as a fake. This is just one example representative for an international progress. More control of imports by customs service is necessary, and the protection of trademarks has to be discussed with the Chinese government as well. Without political reaction, China will not change its illegal activities. As one result of 9/11, fighting against money laundering played an important role in the discussion how to prevent terrorism. Financial investigation units have been established all over the world, but short-term exchange of relevant information for judicial reasons has not been arranged. Traditional aspects of international legal assistance are still dominating our official channels and supporting organized crime just by the way. You surely know all those states who are well known as tax havens. From my point of view, those states are simply crime scenes, used for tax offenses, fraud, and money laundering. States like Luxembourg, Switzerland, and the United States of America are just part of the show too. In Cheyenne, you will find much more bogus companies registered than people living in the whole state of Wyoming. Actual price for founding a company is $69. International shipping of your documents is included. Delaware requires $50 only. Just take care of your apostille. Send a copy to some banks around the globe and your illegal capital will be safe. To investigate your very personal money trail will become a mission impossible. And if you prefer to be an owner of a trust for your earnings go to Liechtenstein, your consultant will find a solution that makes you happy. Whenever I was investigating against offenders coming from Eastern Europe, I found money trails always beginning on British Virgin Islands. With the next step, the money was transferred to a trust in Liechtenstein, but leaving the country in the next 12 months for reinvestment. To take a look at those chains of bogey companies, which are always installed for money laundering, is really amazing. It is breathtaking how they are using a multitude of bogey companies for establishing bank accounts around the globe. Whenever investigating relevant cases, tax havens are playing a key role. We have to realize that all those small businesses are used for criminal operations only. Money laundering is always in the media when the focus is on Italian criminal gangs as well. But how should we investigate a case of money laundering in Germany when the initial offense has been realized in Italy? To prosecute someone only for the reinvestment of his illegal profits demands the transformation of intelligence from Italy to Germany without any need. All the information that we must gather for being able to prosecute someone for being a member of an Italian criminal group is only present in Italy, but not in Germany. Is there anybody able to imagine how many police officers and other witnesses must travel from Italy to Germany to explain the criminal background of any money transfer, and how many documents must be translated to make a charge for money laundering possible? And in a trial, we must hear a variety of Italian experts for the history of Italian criminality. It will become a trial that will never end. We have to accept that it is much easier for Italian justice to handle such a trial, and it will be more successful than in Germany due to its knowledge of specific matters. This aspect applies to any foreign criminal gang and their financial investments. From several reports in the media, you know that we don't have the number of prosecutors and judges that we need. Our trials may endure a couple of years. We don't have as much criminal courts for economic offenses as necessary. That's the reason why drug dealers are still becoming managers for illegal employment, for example. They really know about our handicaps. Our traditional method is to investigate single offenses and isolated offenders, but there is no strategy against criminal gangs which are operating nationwide or across the borders. Federalism prevents working groups which are necessary for investigating criminal organizations which are operating nationwide or across the borders. Today we must invest into our future as a free society. Law enforcement needs more manpower, well-educated associates, and more money for getting serious information about criminal organizations by using informants and undercover agents. Data protection makes it difficult to acquire information quickly. To get information about the numbers of bank accounts of an offender requires 6 weeks. To get the account files takes further 3 months. If there is information about a bank account in a foreign state, it may take about 2 years or more to get the documents. This procedure is just antiquated. Section 261 of our criminal code gives us really a lot of opportunities to investigate in cases of money laundering. But there are too many hurdles to take for getting the requested evidence quickly. Organized crime is assisted by lawyers, trustees, tax accountants, and auditors. They make it possible to anonymize illegal profits by transferring money through different countries. And they know about the circumstances and difficulties when investigating in cases of money laundering, and to get the file of a bank account is only the beginning. It is not a middle stage or just the end. Long-term undercover operations must fail because there is just one more minute. Thank you. There is either no sufficient budget or the risk to make oneself liable for prosecution. While the DEA, FBI, and Secret Service are spending several $100 million each year for paying so-called high-class informants as part of their operations, German politicians do prefer the cheap way. But who will risk his life for incurred expenses only without any personal profit? And who wants to lose his job as a prosecutor or a police officer when investigating more than one crime by searching for drugs or weapons for a longer period? There is an evident misunderstanding of legislation as a result of not existing evaluation of organized crime in Germany. And when I take a look on our judicial opinion about our undercover operations, we are always making one step forward, about 3 steps back. The result of the situation is easy to explain. Most of the time, we're only charging those offenders who are dealing with illegal items at the end of the sales chain, but not those persons who are really responsible for the businesses in its origin. To fight organized crime means to find much better ways for international cooperation. Simple exchange of information is not enough. Joint investigation teams in Europe are just one probate instrument available for more successful common operations. European evidence warrant is one further step. We need international working groups and not only the exchange of historic information. Joint investigation teams in Europe are only the beginning, but not the end. We have to get over obstacles like federalism and national borders immediately. In our tradition, we are investigating in single cases, but we have to start our proceedings as a common project. One common theme, but not only one single investigating team. Remember, Agri Mafia. Prosecutors from several states have to coordinate as head of several investigation teams in constant exchange of information. Agri Mafia or illegal employment organized by Italian offenders, for example, could be one ambitious project for cooperation. Without changing our strategies, there will be no fight against the organized crime. Fighting organized crime does not only demand the engagement of law enforcement authorities. What we need is a new kind of public-private partnership for protecting our legal economy. Only prosecution gives a chance to prevent further attacks on our economic system as central reason for common welfare. With that goal in the background, we need a new spectrum of measures for investigating complex facts and networks. And legal economy must refuse any cooperation. Just remember illegal employment with representatives of organized crime. The last sentence, sorry, sir, give me 10 seconds. But a symbol for my profession is a blindfolded lady. Blindfolded, that's what we are. But like the former president said, it is time for change, and change must come. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Kirkpatrick, for this wonderful lecture. Your questions?